Here's what some people are saying about the Projection Booth podcast.
The Projection Booth is single-handedly the greatest film podcast you could ever listen to or could possibly want.
Top notch. 5 stars. This has quickly become one of my favorite film-related podcasts. Always interesting.
A completely unpretentious yet fully comprehensive look at films from all genres.
The Projection Booth podcast, with new episodes available every week at projectionboothpodcast.com.
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast. Here are Brad, Lisa, Brian, and Darren.
Welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast. With me is Brian Young, the Turtle Dork.
Happy Friday, folks.
And also joining us is Lisa Gullickson, wife Dork.
Happy Memorial Day weekend, people.
And Brad Gullickson, mouth Dork.
I'm hot. I'm big.
And I'm your host, Darren Smith, the Disco Dork. Well, welcome to the It Modcast podcast, Fistful Friday. Happy Friday, everyone.
Yeah, happy Friday.
TGIFF.
Could not come soon enough.
That's right. This Friday, in honor of the release of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Zac Efron's new film, Baywatch, Mouth Dork thought it'd be a great idea.
He's Fistful of Pirates?
No, Mouth Dork had a good idea. He was very witty with it, too. He said, we're going to have a fistful of Baywatching. And at first I thought, well, I've never seen an episode of Baywatch, so I can't compile a top 5 episodes of Baywatch.
The Hoff?
But no, he did it one better. He said, no, top 5 Michael Bay films or moments from Michael Bay films or anything involving Michael Bay. And I thought, you know what? That's awesome. I can do that. So, we're going to have our top 5. Here's our top 5 Michael Bay moments, films, or whatever. Brian.
All right.
You're number 5.
So many.
So many, right?
So many.
Right?
This is right up my alley, but, man.
I mean, this might as well be the Fistful of Brian's favorite movies list.
No. Come on, give me more credit than that.
You love Michael Bay. There's nothing wrong with loving Michael Bay.
Do I? I mean, I do.
Yeah.
I do. I just don't like those Transformers movies.
Well, I'm not. I do not expect one Transformers film to hit your list.
Actually, my first is the first Transformers.
Respect.
You do you. That's what I have to say to that.
Oh, man. I'm going to start with that. I'm going to start with the original Transformers, which is the only one out of the series that I really, really like, and which came out 2007. And I'm just going to say the final battle in the city. I thought was just absolutely fantastic. I mean, in 2007, the first time seeing like Transformers on screen, the first time you get to see Optimus Prime transform, the first time you hear Peter Cullen, who we know from the Gen 1 cartoons, to hear his voice, that older voice, which sounds great, hearing his voice as Optimus Prime in this movie. When that movie opens up in space and you see the Allspark and you hear like his voiceover, it was like, it literally took me back to like being 8 years old. But to get to my moment, just the final battle starting from like the freeway where we see what was the Transformer? The
Jazz?
No.
I'm not telling you because that's my number 5 pick.
Oh, it is? Oh, man. But when he and he grabs
that part. And then what? And then they get to the city. And then what happens?
Then, he gets to the city.
Yeah.
And just the whole battle with Megatron and, Starscream and just all of that with Bumblebee. And
Ironhide, when he shoots the thing.
When he jumps and he shoots the thing and you get all those. Everything that Bay is known for is put on display in this moment. And to see Optimus Prime and Megatron fight each other and to see, to hear those lines where you hear Peter Cullen like, Megatron, it's just me and you. It took me back to like the '87 animated movie. It was like that first movie is something special, I believe. Unfortunately, the sequels are a different story.
3's good.
Yeah, I enjoy the end.
Don't you hide behind your microphone, Darren?
It's not big enough.
But yeah. The end battle of the original Transformers.
All right, Wife Dork. I can't even imagine what any of your top
Yeah, I
five.
know.
So I'm excited. Your number 5.
My number 5 in my Fistful of Bays is John Boyega, and here's why. He's super cute, and I really enjoyed him in Attack the Block. And when I saw him in Attack the Block, I was like, this guy's amazing. I want to see his career blossom. And then he got into the Star Wars movies as Finn, and I was like, you go. And then you follow him on Instagram. He's adorable. Now, I know. I looked it up today. He was born in 1992. He is by far the youngest on my Fistful of Bays. But I knew that I had to include him because of my massive John Boyega action figure collection and the cardboard cutout that Brad got me. So
I have to hide that cutout.
So that's why John Boyega is my number 5 on my Fistful of Bays.
Oh, I see what you did there.
I cannot talk Michael Bay, especially in this room.
I was like, was he in Pain and Gain? What the fuck? Where was he?
No, he's in my heart and in my stable of bays.
I was like, was he the guy that came to take Martin Lawrence's daughter out in Bad Boys 2?
What year did Bad Boys 2 come out?
Oh, Brian.
2003.
All right, Brad, you're number 5 in a Fistful of Bays.
So that would make John Boyega 12.
I don't want to close my eyes. I don't want to fall asleep because I'd miss you, baby. And I don't want to miss a thing. I'm going Armageddon. And I'm going with the graham cracker scene from Armageddon. No, I'm not.
Oh, man.
I am going with Armageddon. And I'm going with the final scene of that movie. As dumb and ridiculous and stupid with 2 O's that Armageddon is. And I rejected it. I remember when that film came out along with Deep Impact, I was like, I'm a Deep Impact man. Screw Armageddon.
Really?
I was a pretender.
Okay.
I wasn't true to my soul back then like I am today. I love Armageddon. I do believe it belongs in the Criterion collection. I'm happy that it's there, right next to Sweet Smell of Success. But because, despite how ridiculous and stupid and dumb that movie is, it's a ton of fun. Yes, great characters, great actor. Well, not great characters. Great actors playing ridiculous characters. And no matter how many times I watch that movie, I always cry at the end. Yeah. When Bruce Willis is stuck up on that rock and Ben Affleck gets to go home with his daughter. And he's okay with it because he's grown and he's matured. And he realizes this man, this oil rig worker, has proven himself on this space rock and has saved not only the galaxy but his little girl's heart. And then he can explode off into the afterlife feeling like everything's going to be okay on Earth because he made it happen. He doesn't want to miss a thing. And I cry.
That's beautiful, Brad. That was really beautiful.
All right.
I love that movie. I know I'm being a dick, but I love that movie.
That's great.
My number 5 is also Transformers, Michael Bay's first film in that franchise. And it is also towards the end of that film. It is the aforementioned scene that Brian was trying to talk about, but I deterred him from it because I didn't want to spoil
all the
it.
Names of the Transformers.
There is a sequence towards the end of the film where it's a highway chase. Bumblebee is involved, Barricade's involved, and the construction machine Bone Crusher is involved. And the reason why I chose this sequence in particular, and not necessarily this and the final battle in the city, is because this sequence showcases Michael Bay's ability to stage not only an action sequence but a chase sequence, but to have not just a chase sequence, but to have robots fighting in the midst of a chase sequence. So Bumblebee's in the lead car with Sam and Michaela, whatever Megan Fox's character's name is, and Bone Crusher is chasing them, and Prime is giving chase of Bone Crusher. The sequence has Michael Bay's signature low camera angles to the ground to portray a tremendous sense of speed. You have a lot of cutting, But the camera and the editing is not panning and swooshing and cutting so fast that you can't understand the geography and layout of what's going on, who's the lead car, who's in the middle, and who's the chase car. And then Bone Crusher, the camera it starts behind him. The vehicle begins to transform, and as he's transforming, the camera goes real low to the ground, up underneath Bone Crusher, and pans and looks up, and you see him transforming from underneath as you continue to go underneath him, and then the camera ends up in front of Bone Crusher as he's a fully formed robot now, and he jumps up in the air, and he comes crashing down, and now it's like he's rollerblading in traffic, and he's giving the shoulder he gives the shoulder through a bus, and then at this moment we get that transformation scene of Optimus Prime, sort of similar. The camera is behind Prime, low to the ground. He hits on brakes to slow himself down, and he transforms and pops up in the air.
And then what's he says? Ah.
Yeah, it's badass. And so then Prime tackles Bone Crusher, and then they go over the edge. But the thing that strikes me about that sequence is what Brian mentioned as far as seeing Transformers on the big screen for the first time. Firstly, there's that. But when you look at this sequence, in addition to anything else in the film involving the Transformers, say what you will about Michael Bay, say what you will about the later films in the Transformers franchise, but you cannot point to another film in film history, in cinema. You laugh, Brian, but I'm serious. That looks anything like what happens in this
sequence?
moment, in this sequence.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
nothing in film like that.
No, I mean, to me, I remember seeing that in the theater. That was a highlight of the film.
Yeah.
That moment was a highlight of the film.
Giant vehicles. I mean, vehicles. Well, the construction vehicle was giant. Vehicles transforming to giant robots, and then plowing through giant buses, and then getting into a brawl on a freeway, and then shot in a way where it looks good. It looks stylish. Like Michael Bay knows how to shoot action. That's going to be a point that I'm going to be echoing. Brian, I'm pretty sure you're going to be echoing throughout this Fistful. Michael Bay knows how to shoot action. And if you just look at this scene, you could just YouTube this particular scene. I just don't think it can be denied. And so it's just a badass moment. And so I had to put that on my list as number 5. Brian, your number 4.
So my number 4 is a film that I'm actually kind of glad we're kind of doing this Fistful, because I don't really get to recognize this film because a lot of people really think it's garbage, and it's probably maybe one of his. People think it's one of his worst films.
Don't say it.
I don't care. I love this movie.
Don't know.
The Island.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
Oh, not Pearl Harbor. No.
Is Pearl Harbor on anyone's list?
No. Pearl Harbor is nowhere near this
I don't
list.
think you should say that on Memorial Day weekend.
Brian, what's your number 4?
The Island.
Okay, keep going.
What?
Keep going. It's your number 4. Go.
Oh, okay.
Because number 1 on his list is Pearl Harbor.
Oh, shit.
Brian, what's your number 4?
Okay. Oh, okay. So this again, you're going to hear a lot of chase sequences because Michael Bay does a lot of chases, but it's basically when it's an extended, and Michael Bay does this a lot, where his action set pieces extend through different. Do different sets. So this is the foot chase scene after Steve Buscemi's character gets killed when they're in the train station.
Oh yeah.
And then Scarlett Johansson and Ewan McGregor go on the run from basically all the cops from Bad Boys 3.
Oh.
Bad Boys 2. I'm sorry. Because he brings all of them back in this movie. But it's an absolutely great foot chase scenes, which goes to like this hoverboard bike, because it's a futuristic movie.
Oh yeah,
kind of like Logan's
and
Run.
that's the one that leads into the chase on the freeway.
No, well, yeah, I mean they have the chase on the freeway because they're on that truck, and then they unload that, and then they get on the that hoverboard bike, and they fly through the city, then they go on top of the building, and then they fall off that R. That big R symbol that comes down. It's just a massive, extensive action set piece.
I need to watch this film again. I don't remember any of this.
It's great. I love The Island. I mean, we have
Michael Clark Duncan is in it?
Michael Clark
Ewan
Duncan,
McGregor?
who was great. Ewan McGregor. Was it Sean Bean or Michael Bean? Sean Bean. Sean Bean's in it. Who's great as the villain.
Jaimin Hansu is the lead.
Yeah, Jaimin Hansu is great.
I don't remember anything about this movie.
Of course, it does have my bae, Scarlett Johansson is in it, so that's double bae in this for my number 4. But yeah, The Island, I absolutely love this movie.
Be honest, you love The Island because of Scarlett Johansson. If she wasn't in it, you would not care.
That's only partly true.
And by partly, you mean totally 100%.
No. To be honest, I really do like this movie. I really
don't
do.
think you're being honest with yourself.
But Scarlett Johansson, she is gorgeous in this movie. She really is. But no, I do like the movie. I think it has some. Well, I mean, it's basically Logan's Run and all these other types. It's exactly that.
I was gonna say it's exactly that. That's what I remember thinking when I watched it, but I haven't seen it since the theater.
Yeah, I didn't even see it in the theater because it bombed, and I just never. I was like, I'll just see it when I see it. And I saw it, and I was like, man, this is actually pretty cool.
I remember watching that and going, it's no Armageddon.
Well, it's easy to say that, but it'll build.
Okay.
Eat your fucking cookie. Lisa, what's your number 4?
I don't know exactly what my Kinsey score is, but it's whatever is the one that lets in Kristen Stewart, because I think that she is my number 4 bae.
That's
of
a good
today.
pick. She'd be my number 2.
I know,
babe.
especially after Personal Shopper.
What a fascinating...
So crazy hot in that movie. This is what... I don't know. Let's do some math. Because she's like... She's like a perfect 10. Right? But she dresses like a 7. And she has the confidence of a 4. Which makes her like accessible. Which when you add that all up together, she's like a 12 in hotness. And with her personal, like with her personal persona out in the world, you think she might be into it. I mean, she might be into this lady right here.
I'm just gonna put my personal objection to your Baywatching because I could not do this list.
Oh no, you can't. My self-esteem is way too low. I'd feel really terrible.
All right.
What's up, Rosario?
That's a good pick. I'd take that back, Lee. She wouldn't be my number 2. She'd be like 3 or 4, though. Like, I really like... And I've said that on the podcast before. Like, I really like Kristen Stewart. Anyway, good pick, Lisa. I agree. Brad, your number 4.
I totally stopped thinking because I was so engrossed with Lisa's pick.
Did you agree, right?
I mean, it's crazy how much I like Kristen Stewart now. Personal Shopper, one of my favorite films of this year, without a doubt. Jesus, Darren. My number 4. Why didn't I write it down? My number 4 is going to have to be the freeway chase in Bad Boys 2 before you guys get to it. In particular, the moment when the corpse truck opens up and corpses are being dumped upon the freeway.
You're talking about that one.
And like Bad Boys 2 is the most Michael Bay movie ever. One, and it's so long. The film never ends. When you think you're finally at the climax, no, we're going to Cuba, baby.
It shouldn't end. I want to still be watching it now.
And you know what? I might still be. That movie is so long. Hey. I could still be in that theater. But I just remember, in the theater, watching that scene, going, just so in awe and impressed with how Michael Bay shoots a car chase. You're talking about how he applies that to Transformers, how he applies that to The Island, but he hit the peak. I don't think he could possibly ever top the car chase in Bad Boys 2. And just when you think there's nothing else that chase can do, a corpse truck opens up and they're rolling over bodies. It's disgusting and wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, that's a good pick. My number pick is also from Bad Boys 2. And I didn't want to correct you because I think I know what chase you're talking about and what you meant, but you didn't say it. So I'm going to say my chase, the one you're talking about with the bodies, comes out when they steal the Cadillac from Dan Marino.
Yeah.
That's chase I'm talking about starts off in a garage, a spiral case garage earlier in the film with Gabrielle Union in an SUV.
And you think that chase tops the other chase?
That's the first one because that whole sequence, like the island that Brian was talking about, that starts with Steve Buscemi getting killed in a train station and ends up them hanging off the ladder of a building after a car chase sequence riding hover bikes. This is similar in that this action sequence starts with Gabrielle Union. She's playing Marcus's sister who's undercover. A chase ensues down this spiral garage, car garage, and out into the city. There is an accident at a cross section, and a bunch of Haitians come up to her and attempt to kill her, and a huge shootout ensues. Martin Lawrence and Will Smith go up to this intersection, and before that happens, there are these two cars that they're having like a little chase sequence with, and crashing and flipping. Then when they pull up to that intersection, they hop out of the Ferrari and have a shootout. And in the midst of that shootout, the Haitians commandeer 2 trucks, and one of them is a vehicle carrier, an 18-wheeler with the cars on the back. They give chase through Miami across the bridge, and that's when the Ferrari gives chase, and the Haitians are dumping cars off the back of this car carrier as they're going across this bridge, and the Ferrari is dodging cars, and the cars are flipping, and the Ferrari is going up underneath them, and they have those low angles where Martin Lawrence can be seen like ducking a car. And then after they get off that bridge and they're finished dumping cars, like a boat gets dislodged from a trailer and flips and spins around the middle of the highway. So not just the outlandishness of Haitians dumping cars off the back of a car carrier across a bridge, but again, just the setup of that action sequence in its entirety, the acts of that. The first act happening in that garage, the second act happening in that intersection as a shootout, and in the third act happening on that bridge with the vehicles being thrown off the car and then that boat. If you look at that as a whole, I mean, you take other action pictures, mainstream big budget action pictures, and look at how they stage a big action set piece. None of them come close to the audacity of something like this. And like you said, Brad, Michael Bay is at his most Michael Bay in Bad Boys 2, because not only do you have the action going on, which is crazy, but you have Martin Lawrence and Will Smith, their chemistry, which carry both the Bad Boys film really on full display. Like as Michael Bay is having that Ferrari, Will Smith drive that Ferrari and dodging cars in traffic and flipping cars, he and Martin Lawrence are having their rapport that those characters are known for. But then also there's still story being played out because, Martin's sister, Gabrielle Union's character, she's in danger, and Marcus is just telling Mike Lowry, Will Smith's character, to just, dude, I don't care what you got to do, just punch it, go, man. That's my sister. She's in danger. There are several different moments throughout that chase where Martin Lawrence's character is exclaiming these things. So it's not just a straight up action sequence. Like Michael Bay is peppering character work and story throughout this action sequence. But then on top of all that, just the way he shoots that. Again, outside of a Michael Bay film, there's not been another chase sequence that's been filmed like that. Not until watching the special features did I even realize that, some of those sequences on that bridge with that Ferrari and the cars being flipped off, and, they're implementing CGI in some of that, and it's done expertly. And this is back in, when was it, 2003?
Yeah, but 2003.
Yeah, and like it's just the way that he shot that and orchestrated that entire sequence and built that. I don't think, for me, the movie lives up to that afterwards. Yes, that sequence that you're talking about, Brad, when they're in the friggin' Cadillac, they steal the Cadillac from Dan Marino, and then they're chasing after that van, and the dead bodies start coming out, and then they're running over the dead bodies, knocking their heads off. Michael Shannon is in the trunk of that car when it crashes. And then they go to, where is it at the end? Cuba at the end, and they're driving a friggin' Humvee
to the
shanty town, killing people and babies in their home sleep or whatever. That's nuts. But just the way that middle action sequence is orchestrated, I think it's probably my favorite bit of action directing from Michael Bay out of his filmography, just because of how different each stage of that sequence is from the other, and how unique it is, and how well it's pulled off, and how well Martin Lawrence and Will Smith shine as two buddy cops, action stars in that sequence. I think it's really strong work from Michael Bay. So that's my number 4. Brian, your number 3?
So my number 3 is Bad Boys, but it's the first one. So this is 1995.
Damn!
And this is Michael Bay's first feature film.
95.
Yeah, April 95 when it came out. Yes, Michael Bay's first feature film. He was primarily a music video and commercial director before this, and there's been many stories about Don Simpson and Jerry Bruckheimer, how they this movie was originally supposed to star, I think, John Lovitz and Dana Carvey. I know, it's crazy, and yeah, and. It didn't work out, so they brought in Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. And this is really the movie that I feel like really made Will Smith into a superstar. And the scene that I'm talking about is, again, the chase scene on foot.
God damn it, Brian.
There's a lot of foot chases here.
I know what you've been talking about. I know what you work it up to, too. It's my number one, actually. Go ahead.
Oh, wow, yeah. But, this is when Teresa, Martin Lawrence playing Marcus Burnett, his wife, comes to the door because they have switched roles, switched identities with Téa Leoni, and she comes to the door, and Teresa's at the at the door, and Martin comes, and it's like, oh. He's like, you see me, I got a shirt open. You see Mike, he half butt naked. Oh man, that was a great moment. And then Téa Leoni leaves, and then oh god, what's the guy's name? Checky Cario, the main villain is
the dude from Kiss of the Dragon.
Yeah. So they go to the lobby, and then there's a little shootout in the lobby, and then Mike Lowry goes out and chases him, and it's a chase throughout the city of Miami, and Martin Lawrence like jumps on top of a car, and then he's about to get run over, and then Will Smith saves him, and then you get the classic iconic shot, the wraparound shot of the trailer shot of Martin Lawrence and Will Smith that we saw in the first trailer. And Will Smith always says like him running down the street with his shirt open is what made him a star. So you gotta thank Michael Bay for being able to shoot him that way in slow motion. It's such a great scene, and to start with that comedic beat and to lead all the way up to that iconic shot of the two of them. This was everything to me in '95 because this was at the height of Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, and to see basically two of the top sitcom stars of that day to be together in the movie. This was like Tom Hanks and Tom Cruise being in the movie together for me. Like, I was like, man, Will, like the Fresh Prince and Martin, and they're in a movie together. It was the best. It was the absolute best. So yeah, that's my number 3.
Lisa.
My number 3 Bays is actually a tie of Chris's. Chris Pine and Chris Pratt.
Huh.
Yeah, and here's why.
Chris Hemsworth can't get no love.
Sorry, Chris. He's. I'm gonna say something that you guys, when you hear my next pick, you're gonna go, "What the fuck you just said?" But I'm not into like the beefy meathead looking guys. So I like a funny guy. I like a funny guy who can sing. Chris Pine can sing. He has a sense of humor.
You like me?
He was in Into the Woods. He has the confidence to carry off Captain Kirk, and
like me,
and the self-loathing to pull off the character of Toby Howard in
like
Hell or
me.
High Water. Yeah, I'll like you. Yeah. No, if you added up all of these 5 bays, they do not equal you, my one true bay.
Okay, good.
You're my one true bay.
I think they do, actually. I think that those are all me.
They all, if you were to like, what is that
I've got
robot
a
where
me.
You put the parts?
Voltron.
You're like the Voltron of all these bays.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah. And then Chris Pratt, because he's funny and he likes to dance, and even though he's a bad dancer, and he's funny, and he also has a cute Instagram. I'd be creeping on Instagram.
You take Pratt over like Chris Evans?
Yes, like by a lot. I wouldn't even consider Chris Evans a bae, except for in Civil War when he's wearing a hoodie. I think he's kind of cute.
That's Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier, yes, when he's wearing a hoodie. I think he's cute in a hoodie.
What? All right, Brett, you're number 3.
I'm just not prepared for this list. I'm certainly not prepared to be positioned at this point after Lisa's Bays. What? I'm on number 3. I'm going with the third Transformers film then.
Yeah.
Dark of the Moon, in particular. the final battle.
Destruction on Chicago.
You know, okay, the Transformers films, Michael Bay, he just can't help himself. He thinks he's hilarious. He's not.
Oh,
he's a monster when it comes to his style, his brand of horrendous comedy. It just doesn't work. Please stop trying to put jokes into your movies. But Transformers Dark of the Moon, that battle at the end is like the Saving Private Ryan D-Day invasion of Transformer scenes.
Yeah, I will give you that.
It's truly epic.
It is.
And you have that crazy snake transformer burrowing through buildings.
And the buildings toppled on top of each other.
And clashing into each other. And you have this, Josh Duhamel and Taye Diggs on the side of buildings running down and sliding.
The parachuters.
And this came out in 2011. Not too far after 9/11. And I remember sitting in Dark of the Moon and just watching 30 9/11s happening and being disgusted by the level of destruction in Dark of the Moon. It's funny how some action films that superhero films, I can watch the Avengers and see New York get blown up and I don't flash back to 9/11. But instead sometimes I do, and it definitely occurred in Dark of the Moon, and it made me incredibly uncomfortable for a few moments until I just became completely in awe of how that scene never ends. And that's the thing about Michael Bay movies. He doesn't do short. He only does long.
Nah.
To his detriment, but also when I go to see a Transformers movie, I want to see the epic conflict of Autobots versus Decepticons, and I want to see us caught in the middle. And there's probably too much sincerity when there shouldn't be, and too much humor when there shouldn't be. It's this weird mix that's occurring in those films. And at one moment I can hate Dark of the Moon, and at another moment I can just absolutely love it. And Shia LaBeouf's driving around with Bumblebee severed in half, and he's connected to the truck, the tow truck, and he's
that's right. Yeah.
It's just so it's just out there.
It is. It's a crazy movie.
Anyway, so Dark of the Moon. It makes me feel weird.
All right, my number 3 is... So, Bad Boys is Michael Bay's first film. In that film, we see a lot of the things that stylistically Bay would use and evolve with in his subsequent films. We mentioned a couple of chase sequences, the one, Bad Boys 2, The Island. But in his second film, The Rock, it was the first time that he really decided to define his particular style, and when it comes to directing and
guys on
choreographing,
wheelchairs in the foreground,
chase sequences. And while there is a brief car chase sequence in Bad Boys at the end, it takes place on a runway strip, so it really is just a straightaway. There's no other cars involved. It's just between two cars. But you would see this thing in Bad Boys that he would use and to greater effect, and then involve different elements of the surrounding people in wheelchairs in the foreground. In The Rock, so there's a sequence where Sean Connery's character steals a Humvee, and Nicolas Cage's character gives chase in a yellow Ferrari, and they're going down the streets in the hills of San Francisco. And he used it a little bit in Bad Boys, but Michael Bay has this technique that you really can see in The Rock, where he has the camera on the front of the car, the hood of the car, facing the driver. And he does this thing where he shakes the camera mostly from side to side. And while he's shaking the camera from side to side, he's pulling in and out, like doing these quick zoom ins and zoom outs on the driver. And that, coupled with all the other mayhem, there's a friggin' streetcar that gets blown off of its track, and they're driving, the Humvee is driving through other cars, and The Ferrari is jumping through stores. I mean, all those things are combined, but that technique of that camera on the hood shaking from side to side, just a simple act of moving that camera from side to side, but pulling the zoom in and out really fast with the drivers, really sell that sense of kinetic energy and momentum and chaotic nature of that chase sequence. And Michael Bay doesn't get enough credit because before Bad Boys and definitely before The Rock, you didn't see that particular technique when filming chase sequences, when filming someone driving in a chase sequence. Mostly it's the camera just on the person on the hood, and it's just a static camera shot, and they're jerking the wheel from side to side and grimacing. But Michael Bay put energy into that cockpit shot with just moving the camera and doing that zoom. And it's something that it's real little. It's a small detail. It's a really cheap technique, so to speak. There's no special effect involved. It's really practical, but it adds so much so that you would see it in his subsequent films. And then you would start seeing it used in other films, period, and other action films. And so if you just look at the way Michael Bay shoots car chase sequences, specifically in The Rock, I think you would see a lot of what would come after it in Hollywood beginning there. And a lot of people owe a lot of how action is shot to Michael Bay. And it's really evident in The Rock. I mean, that sequence is nuts. Like the craziness that will become the Fast and Furious franchise, like all of the stuff that's happening in those films, like a lot of that craziness and just cars driving through shit, other cars pulling bank vaults. Yeah, they didn't pull bank vaults in Bad Boys, but you have Haitians dumping cars on the middle of the freeway. A lot of it is pioneer, like in Michael Bay's films, like him taking the chase sequence to outlandish levels, like a giant snake robot toppling buildings in Chicago. Like Michael Bay did that for the car chase sequence. Before it was like Bullet was the standard, the pinnacle, the bar, the high bar. And so Michael Bay comes along, and now it's not enough to just have a car cutting corners and jumping down the hills of San Francisco. Like you got to do more. Like with the Transformers movies, there has to be more. You have to have escalation. There has to be, giant buildings tipping over. You got to jump. And now look at the Fast franchise. Now you got cars jumping from building to building. But like all of that really started like with Michael Bay one-upping, the chase sequence in cars. And I think The Rock was one of the first. So yeah, I gotta have The Rock as my number 3. Brian, you're number 2.
Number 2 for me will be Bad Boys 2, and basically the same car chase that you were talking about on the freeway, and again everything that extended from from that spiraling parking garage to the intersection shootout that leads into the car chase with the 18-wheeler and the throwing the cars out on that expressway. Just absolutely riveting. I think probably some of the best action sequences that we've seen on cinema. And like you were saying, Brad, Bad Boys 2, I think is the pinnacle of Michael Bay. Like when I think of him as a director and what he has to offer and his contribution to film, you can point really to Bad Boys 2 and to this sequence to really showcase his skill set and his talent and what he's able to put on screen, how he's able to use the camera, how he's able to fill the frame, and how he's able just to create exhilarating action with also infusing comedy beats in there as well. Of course, you have to give credit to Martin Lawrence and Will Smith and their chemistry as well, but just all that kind of melded together to really bring something that I've never seen on screen before. And like I said, it inspired video games. It inspired a lot of stuff. Like that sequence has really inspired a lot moving forward when it comes to like car chases and action sequences. So yeah, Bad Boys 2, that scene is incredible.
Lisa, you're number 2.
Here we go.
I know I just said when I was talking about my Chris's that I'm not into beefy guys.
Oh, man.
But my number 2 is Dwayne Johnson. And here's why.
That surprises me.
I think he's utterly charming.
I mean, I agree.
He has a smile that lights up a room,
yeah.
first and foremost. And he is a man who is able to throw himself into something, like, completely, as we've seen in his wonderful Journey to the Center of the...
Journey to the Mysterious Island.
Yeah, those films. He also can sing, as proved by Moana. And also in the little promos to Moana, he can also play the ukulele, which is adorable. What a hilarious instrument for such a large man to play. And he's really funny. I really loved him in that movie with Kevin Hart.
Central Intelligence.
Central Intelligence. I think that he showed a level of sensitivity and understanding of, like, the people who are on, like, the fringes of society. I think that he's a really insightful person.
Did you like The Rock before Central Intelligence?
I think Central Intelligence totally sold me on The Rock, which is crazy.
Because I feel like I'm the one who's always going on and on about The Rock as my bae.
Because you are.
Right. And you never talk about The Rock as a possible bae.
Is this an I saw him first thing going on right now?
I mean,
bit.
you can totally have the dibs
I'm
on
just,
Dwayne.
like, 2? Like, if you said 5, that would make more sense to me. But 2?
To me, I'm putting this kind of in enthusiasm today. Like, this is my list today. You know, my lifetime loves are clearly, they're not on
But,
here.
like, you're not interested in watching Baywatch, and he's in that film with Zac Efron.
No, I'm not. That's true. Should I kick him off? I don't want to kick off.
No, I just find that interesting.
I find him adorable, is all I'm saying. And adorable enough to overlook his disgusting muscular deformity. So.
What, his body?
He's so big.
He's a specimen.
He's so big, he clearly works out a lot. It must be exhausting.
Huh.
But put him in a hoodie. I bet you he's pretty cute.
All right, Brad, you're number 2.
Oh, my God. My number 2 is The Rock.
Dwayne Johnson as well. See? I knew it. That's why you're concerned.
Not that one, but Alcatraz there.
Yeah.
And it's not any of the action scenes. As great as they are, and The Rock felt like the action films of the 80s making a comeback in the 90s. But what I want to talk about today is the fact that here's a film with a really great pair of actors and characters. Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery together are fun. They're, it's a buddy cop dynamic, certainly, but it's impressive how, when that film ends, how invested you are in their relationship that starts off antagonistic, and how they grow together over the course of the raid of The Rock. And it's like the last breath of Sean Connery's career. Let's not talk about, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. And it's the beginning of the next phase in Nicolas Cage's career.
Yeah, it was.
And they are just really, really wonderful together. Their chemistry is top notch, and when they're arguing with each other lovingly, it's the height of that film. I love that car chase. That car chase is insane because it really has no business being in that movie whatsoever. But that is also such a Michael Bay maneuver.
Yep.
And I love Ed Harris in this film too.
Man, his villain, his bad guy.
It could so easily be just the bad guy, but he brings a lot of heart and understanding to that role.
And how at the end, how he kind of switches.
He has a moral code.
Yeah, he's not just maniacal to the end. Like, he's kind of regretful, but then like that ends up costing him.
And The Rock spun off a bunch of imitators, in the Bruckheimer Simpson vein. We'd get Con Air, and I love Con Air. I probably like Con Air more than The Rock as a crappy, weird B movie. Yeah. But The Rock has a lot of heart to it.
It does.
It doesn't have any Dwayne Johnson.
But what couldn't be made better by a little bit?
That's right. Well, we'll get to that later in my number 1.
Con Air is great, though.
Con Air is great, though.
Put the bunny back in the box.
All right. My number 2.
That was the best line reading.
Is my number 2 is Armageddon as well. in again, that's that scene at the end where Ben Affleck is realizing what Harry is doing and he's being tricked, and he pushes him back up in the elevator lift and he tells him to go take care of his daughter.
I could sing the song again.
That I can sing it too. We'll do a duet. And it's very emotional. It's a very emotional moment, but I think it's because of the character work that Michael Bay does, the characters do in Armageddon.
I can sing the bridge too.
That's the cool part about Armageddon. People talk about it's like a silly, it's goofy or whatever. But the premise, maybe I don't even think the premise is dumb. Like if you can buy into any science fiction film or you know, end of the world type thing, like if you're going to buy into Deep Impact, it's like not even that much different from Armageddon. I just think that Armageddon does it in a way that it's wearing its purpose to entertain you on its sleeve, and I don't think it's taking itself too seriously. Yes, the stakes are high, but you have some people who aren't the movie. The characters in the film are like the movie, aren't taking the situation too seriously until it gets to the point where they're forced to face their mortality. And the fact that those characters have each have moments to shine and are given specific like character beats, like Will Paxton, his moment that he has with his son and April O'Neil from the Ninja Turtle film, that play into why he's going up there, and the moment, the graham cracker moment, the animal cracker moment that Ben shares with Liv Tyler's character, coupled with the tension and the drama between he and her father, only build to sell that emotional moment at the end of that film, because there is an antagonistic relationship between Bruce and Ben and their characters. When they get to that point where, through this ridiculous act of going to land on this asteroid that's going to come to Earth, well, through that ridiculous act, Ben earns that moment, earns Bruce's respect, earn Harry Stamper's respect, and his blessing to be with his daughter. So it turns out that goofiness and that silly plot or point or whatever was necessary for some really good a really good character moment. And I think that with that, I mean, we have criticisms about Michael Bay's Transformers films because of the humor is just bad, and you know, he doesn't do a lot of heavy character work in those films. But I think in Armageddon, outside of, I don't know that I've really cared, so to speak, about characters in a Michael Bay film like I did the ones in Armageddon. And like, I really mean it. Like the Gru, the Roughnecks or whatever, they're all likable. Michael Clark Duncan, Steve Buscemi,
Owen Wilson.
Oh, that's right, Owen Wilson, and he died so early. That's so sad. Yeah, like all those guys, like they were a fun group of guys, and you know, I came to enjoy them, watching them. And so I don't know. I think that Michael Bay doesn't give credit for putting that cast together and having them, you buy into them being a bunch of roughneck guys who were used to being out on these oil rigs together for long periods of time and having this camaraderie, and then agreeing to accompany each other and help each other on this mission. And then the way he shoots that, going back to like the way he shoots action, those initial meteor strikes on the city, on New York City, even today. Brian, when did Armageddon come out?
98.
98. You look at that opening sequence when that first initial meteor shower hits, and it opens with Eddie Griffin riding on the bike with the pug in his in the basket on his bike, and then that meteor shower happening, and it's amazing. It's an amazing sequence that it opens the film. And so, again, credit to Michael Bay for knowing how to sell and stage exhilarating action set pieces, but with Armageddon, having characters that are likable throughout. And so I really appreciate that. Again, to so much so that when that moment comes at the end of the film, I cry. Like, I remember being in the theater watching that scene, like, and I cried. And so, yeah, and I was shocked too, because up until that point, I was like, this is just a cool ass action movie.
It sneaks up on you, that crying.
Yeah. And so, I don't know. And Bruce Willis is so good in that moment, you know, even Ben Affleck, but Bruce Willis is so good in that moment. The way his character was hard as nails, a hard ass, and now he's telling him, like, you go take care of my baby. So, yeah, I really like that. Excuse me.
And Liv Tyler watching it on the monitor.
I know. Oh my goodness! And she said, "Daddy, don't go." Oh, and Billy Bob Thornton is great in that. He's in that too. Oh,
Keith David's in it for a hot second.
That's
He's
right.
Always awesome.
That's right. So Criterion, do this. Go ahead and re-release that as a Blu-ray, please. Thank you, Brian. Your number one Michael Bay moment.
So this comes from The Rock, and this is a moment that I absolutely love. And going back to what you were saying about just the heart and the character, we really saw that in the 90s with his first 3 films. This is, I think, like the first part of his career before we kind of get into the second part of his career.
Post-Transformers. This is pre-Transformers.
Yeah, pre-Pearl Harbor. I mean, you look at his 90s films, you look at Bad Boys, The Rock, and Armageddon. Armageddon, you could start to see where his style and evolution was going, but specifically and probably more so with The Rock and Bad Boys. But with The Rock, he is able to really focus on, just like with Bad Boys, it's a buddy cop type of film. And the moment I really want to focus on is Stanley Goodspeed is the Green Flares. So after he gets he fights, oh God, I forget that guy.
Tony Todd.
No, not Tony Todd. The other guy that was in True Romance, the guy that he talks to, I forget his name, but he fights with him, and he takes the serum, the little green ball, VX gas, and puts it in his mouth.
Oh yeah.
And so he has to like take the needle and stab himself in the chest, and so he's laid out there, and then you hear like the voiceover from Michael Biehn. You know, it's like, you know, once we show the green flares to let them know that we're safe, and so he takes the green flares out. You know, he banks it on the ground, and then he walks out. But as the jets are coming to drop the missiles, and he's running out there to try to. It's all in slow motion. We're cutting back and forth between William Forsythe and Vanessa Marcel.
Forsythe's so great in that too.
Yeah, and he's going out there. You see the shot where he has the green flares and he's yelling, and the jets come and they fire the missiles, and that overhead, the God's view shot where you see Nicolas Cage on his knees and he's yelling. And then you see the jet go up as you see the explosion from up above, and the music and everything. The way that that whole sequence is just beautifully done. It's beautifully shot, and it really does like just bring out that moment of peril for Stanley Goodspeed, because you don't know if he's going to make it or not. And he does a really good job of really building up that moment. So I love that scene. From The Rock. So that's my favorite Michael Bay moment.
All right. I'm trying to think. So it's either James Spader.
Ooh, that's a good one.
James Spader.
Ooh, excellent guess.
You already used John Boyega. So James Spader. And there's another one. Who else is your other Bay? You have so many.
I do. I have a heavenly host of bays.
All right, so okay, in the suspense, your number one bay, your Fistful of Bays. My
number one bay is Kurt Russell. Today.
What? Oh, today. Okay. I was gonna say what?
Today, he's a man who elevates everything that he's in. He was just in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and is amazing and still charismatic and sexy and wonderful. And he can populate my planet anytime.
Whoa.
I loved him in The Hateful Eight.
Yeah.
All dressed in the furs. That's like the Western hoodie.
Yeah.
But going back to his early career, Big Trouble in Little China, when he's got the lipstick smear on his face and he doesn't know, and it's so fucking sweet. Then Baby Blues.
Have we watched Tango and Cash, Lisa?
Whoa!
I do not think so.
What?
With him and Sylvester Stallone?
No.
That's an interesting Bay performance from Kurt Russell.
Does he put on like the heels in that one?
He does put on the heels in that one.
I like a man in heels.
I know you do.
You gotta check that one out. You gotta see Tango and Cash.
Tango and Cash is great.
Yeah.
Tango and Cash, high five, Lisa.
All right. I'm glad my life didn't depend on that pick. God, I'd be a dead motherfucker.
Poor James Spader.
To me, I don't consider him a Bay. He's like a true.
He's a life partner.
True romance.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
Our love is strong. Me and James Spader. No, like me and John Boyega, that's like a flame that's just gonna burn hot, but it's gonna just go out.
Oh man, but he's
me
getting
and Spader
older.
are forever.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, I gotta remember that.
Forever, as is Kurt Russell.
Okay.
We might be forever, but I mean, I feel like my love for him is fairly new.
I'm totally
I
satisfied.
feel like your love for him is fairly new. That just came out of nowhere. I was blindsided by that.
I felt like Brad was blindsided by several of my picks.
Yeah, but not necessarily Kurt Russell. I'm on board. We can invite him into the home.
It's so funny. Like, the ones you're on board with and the ones you're not on board with. We're going to have to get the couch out.
I think your Chris's is weird, although Chris Pine is good. I think your thing with Chris Pratt's weird.
I love Chris Pratt.
I mean, I like Chris Pratt a lot. But like top 5 bays and then tying him with Chris Pine, no.
I'd hang out with Chris Pratt before Chris Evans.
He seems so fun.
Pratt over Evans?
Fuck yeah, any day.
And he feels
Andy
like...
Dwyer, dude.
Evans is All-American.
I thought...
And Andy Dwyer ain't?
No, I don't even know who Andy Dwyer is.
He's from Parks and Rec.
I've never watched television.
I found him adorable on Parks and Rec as Aubrey Plaza's boyfriend.
I like Aubrey
Plaza.
What
a sweet relationship.
Can we talk about Aubrey Plaza? She's cool.
She's cool. She'd be in my heavenly host of bays.
Oh, yeah.
She's pretty.
Top 5. Again, Brad, stop talking.
Thing.
Don't make this list.
All right, Brad, you're number 1. Your Fistful of Bays.
Rosario Dawson.
I was going to say, and not out of spite. And not out of spite for Lisa's list.
I think that Brad should, because Brad has 3 or 4, and that's way more hurtful than having a billion.
At least, you're being generous. He's Tom Cruise. He's friggin' Kurt Russell. Friggin', you love a whole bunch of dudes, B. I can't keep track.
That's true.
So you can't really get mad at Lisa.
It's a plethora.
See? You got a plethora of dudes. You have a stable, too.
That's true. Oh, yeah. Stable.
Man, what's your number 1?
Shit, I don't know.
Not in your stable. I mean, of Michael Bay's. Fistful for another time.
This has been a weird episode for me, audience. Okay? All right? I'm not in the game. But my number 1 is Pain and Gain.
Okay. With The Rock.
Okay. A trio of bodybuilders in Florida get caught up in an extortion ring and a kidnapping scheme that goes terribly wrong. Thanks, IMDb, for bringing me back to earth. It's based on a true story. The way Michael Bay handles that true story, it's probably disrespectful. I'm sorry to the families of the dead people. It's not cool. But I do feel like all the things that we dislike about Michael Bay's sense of humor in the Transformers films work really well in Pain and Gain. Because these are deplorable people doing deplorable acts. You're not supposed to root for them. And maybe Michael Bay's rooting for them, but I don't feel like I ever do. I root for their demise, and I root to see their schemes fall and fail spectacularly. I love Mark Wahlberg in this movie as Daniel Lugo. He believes in fitness. That's all he cares about. And he'll do whatever he can to keep the dream of fitness alive in America. And Anthony Mackie is really wonderful in this movie. But it's got to go to, Lisa's number 2, Bay, The Rock, as Paul Doyle, the one-time convict, loose in the world, trying to find Jesus and quit his cocaine habit. And if there is one moment in Pain and Gain that sticks out above all others, it's after they've chopped up the body and they're trying to dispose of all the parts and put him in the acid bath, and they leave Paul Doyle, The Rock, alone with the corpse. They shouldn't have done it. His method of disposing of the body is cooking it on a grill outside, and there's this shot of The Rock with the barbecue, and in his tongs is a severed human hand, and he's cooking it. And you can't believe it. He is so coked out and crazy. And this is easily one of my favorite Rock performances because it's just so gross and deplorable. And you cannot look away from this film. It came out the same year as The Wolf of Wall Street. And I really do.
Did it?
Yeah. It made if you remember, in the Dorkies of that year, this tied for, I think, 7th place on my list. The Wolf of Wall Street and Pain and Gain, they come from the same headspace. They are two different styles of filmmaking, certainly, but I think they are talking about similar subjects. and our obsession with wealth and fame in America at all costs. And again, that trilogy of performances from those three muscle-bound freaks, pretty impressive. But Paul Doyle, coked out, wow.
All right, my number one, Fistful of Baywatching. I just want to say this before I say my number one. If you listened to the podcast recently, you would know that I, maybe not the only dork here in the Dork Cave, but I am one of the dorks who are not necessarily looking forward to Transformers The Last Night. It took me a while. I don't even think I saw the previous one theatrically.
Boo.
Maybe I did. I'm not sure.
You did.
But I wasn't looking forward to that one either because I was turned off by the one before that one and the one before that one. I'm not shy about saying I don't like Michael Bay's Transformers films. When those films come out, I have heavy criticisms against them. But will also not be shy about championing his other films, his earlier films, his films before the Transformers franchises, even 13 Hours. If you listen to the episode where I reviewed that film, I was really surprised that being a better film than his Transformers films. Now, having said that, there is a huge and ongoing flame war regarding Michael Bay in geek movie culture and even maybe just mainstream culture and criticisms and critiques. Michael Bay is always catching flack for his films. And to some degree, I can understand that. No matter what director it is, what genre it is, there's going to be someone out there who it's just not their thing. And that's fine. Having said that,
I'm just trying to figure out how this works Pearl Harbor into your number one.
Let me finish. People say Michael Bay's a shitty director. He's a horrible director. Blah, 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 blah. I will argue that Michael Bay is one of the greatest living action directors of our time and of all time. The thing is, if you don't like action, you could say, all right, I don't like action films, so I don't like Michael Bay's films. But that doesn't mean he's not a good director or he can't direct action. That's like saying, I don't like sports, so therefore Michael Jordan is not one of the greatest ball players of all time. You cannot be into sports, you cannot give a shit about basketball, but as far as someone's technical proficiency, Michael Jordan's proficiency in that sport, it cannot be denied that he is one of the best, if not the best, arguably. So, the same applies with my feelings towards Michael Bay. My number one pick in my Fistful of Baywatching is... Brad?
Pearl Harbor?
No, fuck Pearl Harbor. chuck that shit in with Transformers. My number one pick in Fistful of Baywatching is that moment at the end of the chase sequence that Brian picked as his number whatever when Will Smith was running down the street with his shirt open. The moment that caps that sequence off is that shot where Martin Lawrence and Will Smith are out of the frame. They rise up from the bottom of the frame as the camera is rotating around them. That was the hero shot. That's the trailer shot. That shot would be repeated in Bad Boys 2 to maybe a lesser effect.
And The Rock.
And also The Rock. But the reason why I have that as my number one is because that's symbolic of the thing that Michael Bay does in all of his films. He is able to use the camera and his imagination and shot composition and technique to make a subject look good. And when I watch the films, I look to be moved by subject matter, thematically, character motivations, character actions. And also I love to be moved by images, moving images. That's what movies are. They're moving still frames. They're, subsequently, you put them in order and boom, 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 you have movement. And for me, movement in cinema is a huge part of what I take from films. And when I'm watching action films, a large part of action is choreography and also movement. Movement is action. It's hand in hand. And Michael Bay is able to, for better or for worse, or whatever, regardless of your opinions of the execution of it, like his style, he's able to do things and he's done things that before he did them weren't being done in cinema. And for someone who watches so many movies, I welcome that because it's going to get to a point where I've seen every technique. So some of these things are going to start losing their appeal to me. If I've seen every car chase and they're all shot the same and they're all blocked the same and they're all executed the same and feature the same stunts, well, that 1,000th car chase is going to lose its appeal to me. So when you have a artist who is taking some element of film and injecting imagination and something new to it and having it look different, then that's something for me as a film goer that I welcome and appreciate, because no other film, regardless of if you like Michael Bay's films or not, it cannot be argued. No other films look like Michael Bay's films. If you're aware of who Michael Bay is, you can see a film that he shot and no one had told you that he shot it, and you don't see the credits and know that Michael Bay shot that film. And the fact that he has such a distinctive voice in cinema when there are thousands of directors really speaks to his artistic capability, I think. To be able to separate yourself in a field when everyone is making movies, but to be able to differentiate your voice, I think, is a tremendous talent. And so that shot in Bad Boys, it just signifies his ability and many other signature shots and things that Michael Bay does in his films that set him apart from other directors, for better or for worse. And so it's just indicative, and I think that it encapsulates why I love him as a filmmaker so much. Granted, there are things in his films, like you talked about, Brad, his sense of humor. If it ain't Martin and Will Smith conveying, his sense of humor for this particular scene and where he wants to go in it, I'm not buying it. Like, I just don't buy it. That's why Pain and Gain doesn't resonate with me the way it does to you, because I don't connect to his sense of humor. That's why in that Transformers, the second one, I find it really offensive. Those two stereotype ghetto robots, like that shit's not funny to me. So there are elements in his films where I just can't connect to the sense of humor, and he loses me in those ways. But if I turn the volume down, or before we get to those parts with the shitty execution of humor, before we get to that, there are things in his films that I just don't get from any other film. Not even someone like James Cameron. Like, Michael Bay does shit with a camera that James Cameron doesn't even do. And that, to me, I just appreciate that as a film goer. When every day, us dorks at this table, we watch so many movies. We take in so much cinema. So to be able to get some cinema every once in a while that differentiates itself, I think is something that I'm extremely grateful for when it comes to Michael Bay. So that's why that shot is my number one Michael Bay.
I think I need to revisit some Michael Bay films. The passion that you and Brian have for Michael Bay is certainly infectious. And when I'm putting my list together, I just don't have the heart behind my picks the way that you guys do. And I think it's certainly time for me to go back to the Bad Boys films.
Yeah.
The Island, man.
And the Island. Again, since you last picked it, I forgot about it.
Don't forget it.
Maybe you need to be on that Itmod spotlight, B.
Maybe.
You and Lisa. Brian and I, we tag team. Brian and I and you and Lisa. And then the last one, the Game of Death, would be the Pearl Harbor. Oh, man. So that's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Hit us up on social media at ItModcast on Twitter and also on our Facebook page to let us know what your top 5 Fistful of Bay watching would be. Whether it be Michael Bay films or your Bays, like Beyonce or your Chris Hemsworth. He's got to get some love, too.
Beyonce's one of my Bays.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That'd be on Brad's list, too, right? He's all lemonade out.
Yeah, he is.
Brian the Turtle Dork, you can find him at the Turtle Dork on Twitter, at the Turtle Dork 1 on Instagram, and Brian William Young on Facebook because he loves complication. Yes, and Lisa, because she loves simplicity, is at Sidewalk Siren on Twitter and Instagram, and also Letterboxd.
Yeah.
Brad Gullickson, Mouth Dork, is at Mouth Dork on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, and Untapped. I am Darren Smith, the Disco Dork, on all social medias. Check us out. Brian he is going to be hosting The Gray on Sunday, 2 days.
Yes.
At the Alamo Draft House in Winchester. Tickets are still on sale. He's not nervous. You can buy those $7 a pop. It starts at $5. And wear your best Wolf t-shirt. The winner will get a $50 gift card to the Alamo Draft House. So come out and support Film and Film Club and Brian and ItModcast. That's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Go watch Baywatch. Go watch Pirates of the Caribbean. Let us know what your top 5 Fistful of Pirates would be as well.
Tommy Lee Jones, Nate in the Haze.
That's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. And until next time.
I'm the captain now.